This is where we're talking to entrepreneurs, those making an impact, so that you could learn their stories and make an impact in your life or business. You're tuning into Business with Chris. Welcome, everyone. Today we have none other than Rachel Joseph. She's the founder and CEO of Rachel's Brand. And Rachel's Brand is an emerging company that's stirring things up in the oatmeal category with their overnight oat mixes full of superfoods and better for you ingredients. And if you are someone that's looking to start a food business yourself, you can get in touch with Rachel at startafoodbiz.com, startafoodbiz.com. On this podcast, we take a deeper dive into her story, how she was able to get started, how she created this brand that's now available across the United States, and how she would help others start their food business as well. So it's jam-packed with information. Let's jump right into it. All right. Today we've got Rachel on the show. Rachel, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited for this conversation. You have a product that is one of my favorite types of foods. I've had it a lot. And before we get into that, though, for the people that don't know you, tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, I am Rachel Joseph. I founded Rachel's Overnight Oats and Rachel's Overnight Oats and Rachel's Brand. A couple years ago, I was in my very own kitchen making overnight oats, mixing out different ingredients, and doing this night after night. Where I reached a point, it was just kind of inconvenient to keep measuring all these different ingredients out. So I went to the store trying to find an overnight oat mix, and of course there was nothing on the shelves that had chia or flax or all these other ingredients that I was putting into my products. In fact, most of the oatmeals that are out there are quick cooking oats, which are very powdery, and so you get a very different result when you try to make that like overnight oats. So on top of that, everything was like loaded with sugar and just bad stuff. And so my attempt to just easily buy it off the shelf at the grocery store failed. And here I am now making a dry version of overnight oats. In fact, I'm the leader in the category. I was first to launch this a couple years back when nobody was doing it. And so it was quite an interesting journey it's been because, I have been, sharing this product and now have seen the category as a whole just evolve into now where other brands are doing it. And I think it's just super exciting. So that's just a little bit about what I've created.
Yeah, so you said you came up with it because there was just nothing else out on the market, right? Um, so they
Exactly.
were the oats, yeah, the oats themselves, they were the overnight oats, the quick cooking oats, that's what they are. They were soggy and all of that. So how are yours different than the oats that are existing? Like, what do you have to do to create that sort of product?
So not only do I use like a unique combination of ingredients, I have hemp in there, I have chia, I have flax, and then I use a rolled oat, which is thicker cut and just more wholesome overall. And so when you soak the overnight oats and the recipe as a whole, you get like this amazing parfait type breakfast, and the texture is amazing. It's just delicious. I don't know how to describe it unless you have it so you can really relate and understand what I'm referring to. But it doesn't compare to, anything else out there. We just kind of stand above all the other quick cooking type oats because it's just very different.
Yeah, and your Instagram is amazing. You've got some great overnight oat bowls there. They look delicious, and I'd recommend. And if anyone hasn't tried overnight oats before, you have to try it. You might have to use Rachel's overnight oats to do that. But when it comes to what you were doing before you started Rachel's overnight oats, Rachel's brand, What were you doing, and have you found that any of the skills you learned in that, whether it was your previous career or whatever it was, have you found any skills that that have translated from that into what you're currently doing?
Absolutely. So great question. Before I got into the food business, which by the way, I've come from zero food industry experience, so I've literally built this from the ground up. I come from a real estate background and accounting background, so very, very different industry. However, several of the things that I have learned, in my prior careers have actually taught me so much more, and I've used those skills. For example, my accounting experience, I've used that to kind of help manage the finances of the business. I've also used from my real estate experience, the sales aspect of it, which to me is actually one of the most fun parts of the business is the sales part, pitching your product and really getting in front of people. So I've utilized those skills. Like I look back and think, like maybe at that point in time that was not the career path that I wanted, or it was just what I was doing, but that was actually a building block. So I don't ever consider a past experience something wasted time. I actually like to look at it as a building block or a stepping stone to further you along in your career path or what it is that you are intending to do with your life. So
Yeah, for sure. And now, now you're in retailers across. Is that across California?
actually, it's nationwide. So I now have a national brand here for a young brand like we are still. I can say I'm coast to coast. I've got to fill in some area in between there, but we are primarily here based in California, so Northern California, Southern California, and then I've recently tapped into the Southwest region, as well as the Northeast region, so New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and then some other retailers along the East Coast as well.
Amazing, amazing. What was the first the first large retail you got into, and how did you go about that?
Oh, that's a good question. So define large retailer. I mean, because I think to everybody that would be a different, a different response. Like, do you consider like a larger retailer a chain that has 30 stores, or do you consider it, like a Whole Foods that has hundreds of doors? Um, I guess it kind of depends on how you how you look at it. But one of the first markets that I had gotten into was here in Southern California. It was a chain called Bristol Farms, and so a smaller like national or natural grocer here. And so I've used that to kind of parlay and the growth of the company by building the brand off of each door I got into, because really like when you're just getting started, I will say that like maybe people don't want to work with you at first because you're so new and you have no proven track record. So you probably have to hear a lot of no's before you hear a yes or hear a commitment from brands. But I would consider that store, those like I think there's about 20 stores, kind of like my anchor account. And what I mean is like once I was able to get into that store, it opened up my access to using a distributor, because previously, like when I was working with just a couple of smaller grocers and little markets around town, like I was just selling and going and delivering those, the products like direct instead of using a distributor. And so once I landed an anchor account, then I was able to establish a relationship with the distributor, which then obviously helps you to grow and expand your business.
Hmm. Apart from distribution, what have you found has had the most impact on your business, whether it's marketing or something else?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say probably my network and establishing a network in the business. I think that is probably the one of the single most factors to success is just expanding your network as much as you can, like building relationships, even with other brands, brokers, retailers. even if it's not a commitment like right now, or even if there's not necessarily like a perfect fit, more often than not, you're going to find somebody that like wants to help you in some way or offer you advice in some way. And everybody is kind of in this same boat together. And so if you're starting a food company or you're, running a food brand, really how hard it is. And so I would say one of the biggest assets is having a really expansive network.
And so the network that you've developed, that was through your other professional endeavors, with real estate and all those sorts of areas?
So not exactly. How I started to build upon my network really was when I started doing like trade show events, and then in the very beginning, I would do in-store demos. So I would have customers that would come, and I would interact with some of the customers as well during the in-store demos. But and basically build a network from that as well. But the majority, I would say, I built networks from going to different trade shows and events, and even just like fitness studios, anywhere that there are like groups and crowds of people or places where you can connect with others. Even just coming down to having a conversation with a family friend or even a family member, like I've made connections that way because once you start talking about like the thing that you're doing or you're working on, it's like somebody's like, oh, well, I know somebody that's done this, or I know somebody that, got into Whole Foods or did something somehow, some way, and, you find a connection there. So I would say just talk to as many people as you can.
Yeah, of course. You always have to be, well, communicating your vision, what you're doing, and all of that. When it comes to the biggest obstacle that you've faced in your entrepreneurial journey, what was it and how did you overcome it?
Oh, so there's lots of obstacles you face in this business, that's for sure. Anything from supply chain issues to sourcing ingredients. Gosh, the list can can go on and on. Probably one of the biggest challenges was just doing this on my own, being a solopreneur. While I take pride in that because I've built my business on my own really, and without any investment capital, I would say that's probably been one of my biggest challenges. And I've had to leverage and utilize credit in certain cases to continue building and growing the brand. And so that's just as of today, like how I've continued to do it. But being a solopreneur, so I would recommend if anybody's getting into this business to find a partner or somebody that you can utilize as like an advisor. And most recently, I started, coaching and helping other young brands. I started, a coaching arm basically to my business because I know and understand the business so well, and I realize now that like had I had somebody like by my side holding my hand, that I probably could have moved faster, pivoted, and made some different decisions that would have saved me a lot of time and a lot of money in the long run. So if you're interested, I don't know if you're going to put up a link, but check out startafoodbiz.com and connect with me there, and I'd love to help.
That's amazing. As for someone that didn't come from the food space, what do you think? Well, for you, what was the biggest learning curve?
Oh, the biggest learning curve. Um, hmm, that's a that's a tough one. The biggest learning curve. Well, probably figuring out lead time because stuff in this business, I feel, moves at a snail's pace sometimes. And what I mean by that is from the point at which you maybe establish a relationship with a retailer, let's say you pitch your product, it might not, even though they might commit to you, it might not be on the shelf for like 6 or 8 months later. And so sometimes stuff just happens like way down the line, but I do realize now that like there's a good reason for that because it does take time to transition and it gives you a chance like as a brand to kind of prepare, like increase your volumes and do the necessary things that you need to do in order to prepare for that launch. But I will say that, yes, stuff does sometimes take a long time. I mean, and that even goes back to like just even ordering ingredients and then creating and manufacturing your product. There's always lead time. And so the sooner you can plan, the better off that you'll be.
Yeah, of course. It's all about planning and timing. I mean, you have to, like you said, you have to get ingredients. Those ingredients have to come together. Then those ingredients have to be packaged. Then they have to be shipped out. It's a whole process, I'm sure. And that kind of brings me to my next point. Kind of, not really, but I'll make the transition anyways. When it comes to a book or resource that has had the most impact on your success, what has it been?
I wouldn't say a book. I'm gonna back up and touch upon a network. Having a really solid network makes a huge difference. Like just knowing people in the business, people that you can just call upon. Like if you've never done this before, if you're just getting started, or even if you have done this before, having that network to call upon, like having good resources, in that sense has really helped me along the way. And so I would say build your network. That's probably the best asset that you'll have to your business is having that network. Obviously, there's lots of books out there and things that I've read over the years, but the most impact that I have felt personally has been through my network.
Amazing. How would you recommend? I mean, over the last year, we haven't really been able to network in person. How would you recommend people in the food industry do that right now?
Right now, I think social media has been, a huge avenue for connecting with people. I've also noticed like a lot of people connect on apps like now, like Clubhouse. I mean, there's LinkedIn. That's how we connected. There are so many different platforms out there, and maybe there's some that you're more familiar with or more comfortable with. I would say stick to what works for you, but definitely don't be shy from trying, new networks and things like that, like those different social platforms. You might be surprised like who you'd connect with or what you find around the corner. So that's probably the best and easiest way to connect. I know there are other platforms like New Hope Network and like even here more locally, there's some different online ways that you can connect as well. And people have different newsletters, and then they host different webinars. And so there's a lot of stuff out there. You just have to kind of sift through what it is that you want, how it is that you want to connect and impact people.
Yeah, what was that one that you mentioned? New Hope Network? What's that one?
Yeah, so New Hope Network is associated basically with the Natural Products Expos. And so they're basically, I think considered like the enterprise that does a lot of the PR component, and they have everything on there from like when companies that when there's an acquisition or somebody launches a new flavor, and then there's all different stuff that they publish on their network. I think brands can also publish information there. Let's just say you launched in a new store. You can submit kind of like a PR release to them as well. But they do other articles as well where they like reach out to different brands, and they kind of highlight, let's just say it's in the dairy category or in the cookie category or whatever it is. It's just like a huge source of just information, different articles and things like that. So it's good to stay on top of that stuff as well. Like, I mean, they're constantly sending emails. I feel like sometimes I get too many emails. I don't always get to all of them, but yeah, that's another great place for information.
When it comes to your marketing, right? You are in stores, so you have the benefit of foot traffic, right? What are you doing for marketing? Have you relied more on sampling? What's been the most impactful when it comes to actually driving people to your product?
So pre-pandemic, things were a little bit different. I was doing a lot of demos. Like I had a couple of team members that would be out doing demos. I did a ton of demos, especially in the very beginning. That was like one of my favorite things to do, is just get out and engage with customers, because you really get feedback first, first on from, from the customer. You're staring at that person right in the face, and you can just see like their expression, how they react to it. So pre-pandemic, demos I thought were like a really, really important thing to establish your presence in your space in any new retail location. So I tried to do that early on, like as much as possible. But obviously, because of the pandemic, that whole avenue of marketing really got shut down. And I think I just got an email today that they're actually going to start doing demos again, I think in Whole Foods. So we're going to see that start to open up again at some point. So that's definitely going to be an option in the future. But second to that, what I would do as part of my strategy, I always tried to offer a minimum of like a 2-week promotion periodically throughout the year, like with a new store launch, and continually, because I do feel like, you might catch that person, going through the store, and they see like a colored tag, which typically when something's on promotion, they they tag it in a different way that it is really eye catching. And so it does inspire people to try something new. And so that has been a part of my strategy just from day one, is offering promotions when I can, to stimulate growth and encourage new customers to try the product, because once they do try it, then they're in love, and then you've got a customer for life. So that's really been kind of how I've handled it. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. That was an amazing answer. And I want to get back into your Instagram again, because you have a lot of people posting their bowls and all that, and then you repurpose that content and you put it on your own Instagram, right? Are you doing anything to incentivize people to do that, or are people just doing that?
So there's kind of a method to the madness, I think, with Instagram. And the account has changed a little bit over time, where you have to work really hard to just kind of stimulate activity on your account. And so, yeah, I'll say that some of that is definitely repurposed content, and not always like original creations like of my own or somebody in house. Sometimes it is, we'll reach, influencers and whatnot will reach out to us about doing some sort of partnership. And so typically we would do like maybe an exchange of product or something in some cases, but more often than not, a lot of the posting is organic as well. And so like we haven't really done any paid advertising or anything like that. Because we are, a smaller, younger brand. And like I said, I haven't taken on any investment capital or anything. And so my marketing budget has been one of those things, while very important, has also been very small. So I've had to just pick and choose what I've been able to participate in.
You're growing, which is amazing to see. It looks like that promotional pricing is really working, as well as the branding that you are doing. I'm actually surprised that you don't do any like paid marketing spend, or paid marketing.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm surprised. So that's is that because you are in retail versus more so selling online?
So it's more so been just, yes, probably because of that. Like the majority, like of my sales, and for every brand it is different, where you're driving your sales. And so to me, it's been, more focused on the retail sales, because, once you get on the shelf, like that's only half the battle. Like, and retailers give you like a limited amount of time, and if you don't prove yourself, if you don't turn enough product or sell enough during a certain period of time, like you can easily get booted out. And so, not to take it for granted, like, the online customers that are there, because those are all super important as well. And I really value those. That's really how I got started, outside of just a couple of shops, was to starting to tell my story on social media, which is how people learned about the brand. But yeah, that's kind of been also part of my strategy, has been getting people into the stores and offering those promotions there as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. When it comes to like having your food in a shop, what's usually the requirements for the retail so that they choose whether or not you stay in that store or not?
So it's going to vary. It's going to definitely vary by category because every category moves so different, and but the velocities change so much. Like from, for example, like a bar, like that category has like a very high expectation in terms of like movement. Same thing with like juices or like grab and go beverages. Across the board, like it's really hard to make a comparison in that sense because you're comparing literally like apples to oranges and like these different products that just don't, you can't have the same expectation in terms of sales and movement that you would have. And, at the end of the day, like the store buyers and the retailers that you work with will know that if they're an experienced individual, like in that seat. And more often than not, the buyers that you'll be working with, like in the food space, have usually been there for a while, if not with that specific retailer, with another retailer. And so like it's all about the data. Like they have access to data reports and stuff like that, and so they can see what the expectation is, and they'll let you know, like, are you making the cut, or how is your performance. And so and again, this kind of goes back to establishing like your network and building the relationships with people in the business, because that's really helped me grow. And I've been very fortunate to, have met a lot of really great people along the way that have supported me and have believed in the brand and really have wanted to see us succeed. And so any kind of intel you can get from somebody on the inside, and by inside, I mean like any buyer or somebody who has access to more information than you do, I mean, try to just soak up that as much as you can and utilize it to your advantage.
That's some great wisdom right there. Uh, Going back into start a food biz, if someone were to approach you and say, "Hey, I have this idea," where would you start? Like where, because there's so many things to do. Where would you begin, and where would you take them along that journey?
Oh my gosh. So that's a loaded question. I mean, we could be here all day with that one.
Yeah.
So starting a food business, I mean, it really, let's first talk about like what it is that somebody wants to create, which is probably one of the most exciting things. Is you've come up with some amazing idea and you want to bring it to market. It's find out what need you're filling in the marketplace and make sure that there really is a market for it. And compare to what else is out there right now. Like for example, when I started my product line, a dry version of overnight oats, like you could not buy that on the shelf. And so I had to create this category and really push for it. I mean, and so part of my advice, and like, if you are going to start a food business, really focus on, okay, like, well, what is your ideal product? Like, what is it that you are creating? Find who your dream customer is. Like, who is that person that you want to sell to? Is your customer that customer that shops and for specialty and organic and has to go to Whole Foods for all of their, specialty amazing items? Or are they, do they want to just find this in a conventional retailer that everybody can have access to? So really narrow in on, not only, what it takes to create your product, but who your customer is, where you could envision like shopping for this product, and then start kind of just examining and researching everything within that segment. Like, and like if in my case, which is kind of rare, where you have to actually like pave the way for a whole new section within the like oatmeal category is what I did. But it does happen. But if let's just say you're creating a bar, for example, I mean, you have a lot of other brands to just look at and really just gain information from, just by observing like the way that they brand, the way that they package, how it looks on the shelf, where they price it. And so I would say look as much as you can and research as much as you can, like of what is already on the shelf and what is going to differentiate you from what is already there. So hopefully that kind of sums it up without getting into too many details about like, the fine-tuned steps of what to do. But I wouldn't say there's a perfect formula for starting, but there's definitely a lot of research that you can do to help establish a stronger base for your idea.
Get that was a great answer. I really really like that. Getting into what keeps you going and all of that. What are some routines or habits that you've implemented that helps you keep grinding day in and day out?
Um, establishing establishing a routine to begin with, like almost every morning, like the first thing I do is get up and I exercise. Like without question, it just puts my head in the right place. I feel good after doing it. Just creating a structure for yourself because you know, because you are, like if you are starting, I'm speaking, in terms of like assuming that you're this person creating this amazing new product and you're ready to, ready to launch it, like you are doing this and you're creating it. So you also have to create your own structure with that. And so, find your routine, like find what works for you. One thing that I always do is like the night before, like I create myself a to-do list. Like I write out like the absolute things that I for sure have to do. And then like if for some reason something doesn't get done, it moves to like the next day, so that I can tackle that task. But really establishing a structure for yourself and creating it, that has helped me personally just stay on task and, keep me in the right place.
Yeah, I love that, especially the writing the to-dos. I do mine the night before, and whenever I don't do it, I find that my days are just way less productive as well. So that's on the
Yeah.
on the organization standpoint. That's that helps at least me stay productive.
Yeah.
If you
And
could
there's
give
something, oh,
one, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say there's also something that just feels really good about like checking something off your list and saying like, oh my gosh, I did that. Because this is this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. And so to feel accomplished by, conquering a few specific tasks every day, like also is really it feels good to do that. And so like there's something to be said for like having to just check it off your list and say, I accomplished this, and this today.
Okay. I actually wanted to touch on going back into the food industry to see if there's any sort of insights or anything up and coming that you're seeing that's really like capturing your attention right now. Is there anything like that?
By way of products, like I wouldn't say anything by way of products I could point out, but I do see a shift in consumer habits and expectations. And I'm speaking from my own personal experience on this, where I see customers wanting and expecting like healthier options, more nutritious options, stuff that's organic or gluten free or no added sugar or all of the above. Like they're looking to have those products in their everyday marketplace. So your more conventional style retailers and not just your Whole Foods shoppers. So I know that's going to take time for a transition like that to happen, but I do see it happening, and I see that with based on the responses from buyers in some of these retail markets.
Amazing. Yeah. That's good to know. And when it comes to one final tip that you have for food entrepreneurs, what would it be?
Start now. Like don't wait. Like don't hesitate. Come up with your plan now. Like if you have a great idea, like if you're creating some recipe or you've been wanting to do something, like don't wait any longer. Like just do it. Like just get started. I mean, even if it's putting like pen to paper and reaching out to me. Like I said, you can reach out to me through startafoodbiz.com. I'll give you guys a free worksheet on how to get started and we can connect. But don't hesitate because this takes time to build and grow a brand and create a product. I mean, I spent like a really long time on the development, and I'm constantly looking for ways to evolve my packaging and improve. And so I would say just start now. Like don't think about it for another year before you take your first step. I know the first step is probably like the hardest, the scariest step. But just get started, get moving, and you'll be surprised. There's people around you that will support you, and you'll learn things along the way. And even if you don't have the exact answer or a super clear path in the very beginning, eventually that path starts to find you, and you really find your way. So I hope that was some good advice for you. But get started now. Don't wait. It's actually a lot of fun, and you'll learn a lot. You'll meet a lot of great people. And how awesome is that to like envision your product on a store shelf? That's pretty cool. So
Very cool. Very cool. I love it. Just do it. It's been a pleasure, Rachel. This has been extremely informative. Thank you so much. When it comes to where people could find you, where do they go?
yeah, so right now you can go to rachelsovernightoats.com or rachelsbrand.com. You'll end up in the same place to find us online. We do sell on Amazon. We're primarily here in the United States from coast to coast. So we're in stores like Vaughn's, which is in California, Vaughn's Pavilions, Rayleigh's, Lucky's Supermarket, and then Whole Foods in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, some Harris Teeter locations along the East Coast, and then Whole Foods as well in the Southwest region. So like Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma.
Rachel, thank you. Thank you so much. Again, super informative. And I'm sure, I mean, I learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure others will as well. So thank you so much, and stay in touch, all right?
You're so welcome. I'm so glad to be here, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.